Hello, Anil.
Hello again.
How was your conference?
You tell me. I think they've had enough of us.
Let me first say some thank you. Thank you to the translators. You guys have been wonderful. A smooth translation of very difficult technical topics. Thank you so much. Thank you to the audio guys as well. And at this point, thank you to the chairman. And thank you, of course, to the Smithers team. And thank you to everybody here. So that was the thanks. What?
So you did the difficult bit.
What kind of topics did you find remarkable in overarching topics?
So it's been 2 very interesting days, I'd say. So I had jotted down some critical areas where most of us touched upon. The first one is everybody sort of agrees that uncertainty is the only certainty today, right? Everybody knows, we're in a VUCA world. Everybody talks about it. Feedstock prices, product prices, customer demands. No one really knows where we're heading, right? Wars and calamities and all the beautiful things we're surrounded with. But in that, we all need to understand and strategize and re-strategize literally on a weekly basis. And I'd really like to thank each presenter to actually present their parts on how they're actually trying to, work through these uncertain times that we're in. Do you want me to go ahead?
I have a question to that.
Please.
So, because I'm thinking that could be bad, the VUCA world, the volatility, but also that could be good. Because, if the market is high, everybody is producing at the max, you cannot do much, right? You're in a transactional state, you do your best, you cannot be better than your competitor. But in the VUCA world or in a difficult market, you indeed can be better, you can be more resilient than your competitor. So could this be an opportunity?
Well, you can decide to either see the glass as half full, or you can decide to see that the glass is half empty.
You know the engineering answer to that? Doesn't matter. The glass is refillable.
Perfect. and I would strongly believe in that. I'm sure on a day-to-day basis, all of us, and this is a carbon black conference, so let's stick to carbon black. But you talk of business, every opportunity, every challenge that we're presented with is an opportunity. Right. It depends on how you look at it. Let me put it very simply. The sustainability world, although was designed to reduce carbon footprint, is also seeing a demand surge. And it's not a lot to do with sustainability alone. When you think about it, people are thinking about the now and here. But then the cost efficiency that some of it brings has brought in the demand increase on that as well.
Economy over ecology.
Yeah, and I completely agree with the panel discussion here, where it is the total cost of ownership that plays a big part. That the Continental team had shared, and it's not just about the price of the product, but then the overall cost of ownership. So yes, challenges are there, but then also opportunities.
What else? Or so I looked at it as in sessions, and in the market session, I found most remarkable, which was then later touched on also in the technical session, was in China specifically, petroleum feedstock. That was a big topic. And in the technical session, I was super impressed to see what kind of effect that has on the quality of the carbon black. Honestly, after 14 years with carbon black, I was also surprised about the amount of the imports to China from Russia. Because in China, we have such a huge overcapacity. What is the utilization rate in China? 40%?
Yeah, some of them.
Where normally, any Western carbon black production is like double utilization, 80%, or you lose money.
Right.
And so how does that tie together? We have this huge overcapacity.
Correct.
Yet we're importing carbon black.
Yes. The relationship, and that actually was the second part as well, where a lot of the speakers talked about how the dynamics, through the years has changed. The kind of feedstocks have changed, right? But then one clear takeaway from almost every speaker was around how the feedstocks are being looked at purely from a sustainability angle as well. 5 years, 10 years, 15 years back, you'd really not look at sustainability as a key quotient, right? But that was being clearly underlined that it's not a good to have anymore. It's actually a table stakes, right? If you've got to be there for the future, you will not. It's not a good to have, but you need to build that into your strategy. And I saw that categorically, coming into play, over the years. Data showed it. The strategies that people talked about showed it. The tire customers showed it, and carbon black. All of us do. Yeah.
On that topic, I was super impressed. Both presentations by carbon black producers and tire makers mentioned recovered carbon black and plasma also, and also like the integration of all this in like a ecosystem and master plan.
Right.
Where a couple of years ago, I was the first talking about rCB and maybe plasma as well, and to integrate it. Now this has been mainstream.
Correct. In fact, sustainability, I believe we've taken a lot of leaps and bounds on understanding on what sustainability is. I take a leaf of what you in your panel discussion ended with. What are the myths, right? And to me that was important because you cannot look at sustainability as an rCB or an SEM or an SEB or any of the other alternatives. I think it's all of them included is what you will have to look at. Again, it's not a broad brush stroke that I emphasized during my presentation as well. You need to understand what is the need of the customer. You need to formulate and you need to collaborate. Right. So
value of application developments and partnership with.
Exactly. It's not about I have this product, can you use it? It's about, okay, we might have a solution. Can we build this together?
How to get the rubber on the road.
Rubber on the road, absolutely. or paint sometimes, but nevertheless.
What else? Actually, you said something that puzzled me.
Go ahead.
And the honesty puzzled me. You said we don't understand sustainable combination materials. And while this is true, this is very honest.
It is.
We know they work.
Yes.
We might not know why they work as much as we know why the carbon black works. So
right.
We don't have that correlation from the product properties to the application performance yet.
Not perfectly.
But it's a little bit unfair because how long do we have the furnace process? 80 years. And how long do we have rCB? Maybe 15 years.
Yeah, the furnace process has been here for 150 years plus.
No, carbon black. The furnace process was developed in the 40s, right?
Right, but sorry, I'm saying the carbon black. Yeah, the furnace process, yes. But we understand carbon black for hundreds of years.
Oh, yes.
Right, so it's...
You could argue the Egyptians had carbon black as a pigment.
There you go. I'm not going that back far. But yes, we all know carbon black for a very long time. Again, we call it rCB. This is a composite. It is not carbon black, right? And it performs very differently. And we are studying... a lot of our resources are going into that to study exactly how the combinations work, how the in-application performance works in different scenarios, different environments, different formulations. I think we've not even touched the tip of the iceberg as yet. So there's a lot more to be done.
What we haven't really touched on is that rCB is not rCB is not rCB.
Absolutely. Yeah, but on the other hand, you need to realize the pyrolysis ecosystem has also the TPO that eventually then can be converted into a carbon black, which is an SCB. So it's, again, as I said, it's not one brush stroke. There might be certain bits that an SCM perhaps cannot, and we need to be honest about it, right? And that's one of the key focuses that we try to do at Birla Carbon is be honest. Right? There's certain things this can do, we're confident of it. We've tested it, implemented it, but there are certain bits it cannot, right? So for that, we've got other sustainable solutions that is possible. So it's a combination. It's not an either or.
Excellent. What else do you have? You have more than I.
Oh, yeah.
What else did you do?
The competition. All right. So another very important bit, and I take quite a few of the presentations just today around improving the quality of carbon black production itself, right?
It has not stopped, right?
Yeah, and we being one of the largest carbon black manufacturers, we strongly believe that the production, the demand is not going to slow down. It's not going to rocket, but it's not slowing down either. And yes, alternatives will catch on eventually. But then replacing carbon black, and I think you touched upon it in your presentation as well, is not something that's going to happen tomorrow for sure, right? But what is really interesting is how yields are being improved, how different combinations of feedstock are being used to actually improve that. We've talked enough about sustainable feedstock, so let's not get into that. But that was a very interesting part, and the future, right? Where we had very interesting points around methane on how that can be used, right? And so many others. So it's an evolving ecosystem. The demand is going to be there. There's going to be huge amount of pressures purely from a geopolitical issue, from an economic issue, from a sustainability issue, but I think we will evolve.
Absolutely. One question to you. The last presentation I found interesting. EV tread grade.
Yeah.
As a carbon black producer, what would you say? Grades like that, could they win back a little bit from silica?
Again, I don't think this is a war to win back or not. There's bits that silica can, and there's bits that carbon black can.
Like abrasion?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's, again, what works best for our customers is critical. And I would say, there's enough space for everybody.
There's options.
Yeah.
There's portfolios for the tire maker.
Yes.
But I think it's good to see that there's non-ASTM grades added, especially in highly growing areas like EV.
Correct. In fact, we ourselves have quite a few of our BC grades, which is focused purely on EV applications as well.
Why is it, by the way, that ASTM is not adding new grades? It's a pain to do that because all the carbon black makers have their say, and it's difficult to get the.
I think it's consistency. It's about getting those grades available, in a commodity.
Because they have to be produced by all the main producers.
Exactly. Yeah.
And that's a lengthy development.
Yes, and I'm sure nobody's going to share all their cards.
True.
All right. The last, but not the least, was demand projections, or carbon black, in China and global, which is very interesting. There was right from Paul's point, all the way to the gentleman from the committee, where there's a degrowth, right? And the environment.
Certainly in some areas, right?
Yes, right, which is very interesting. We constantly keep studying the market and building our projections as well, taking inputs from different zones. So how does one really look at operationalizing these changes? There's one demand dip, but on the other hand, there's huge amount of supply glut. Right. China was also, very much there. You saw so many other countries, the very interesting graph that Paul had shared, right? Import versus export part of it. No one's really, other than Europe perhaps, no one's really reducing production. How is that going to affect on the availability of product, price, and, positioning of that is as a marketeer, I'm extremely intrigued about.
Yes, absolutely. And some regions, of course, have a bigger demand-supply gap. Europe used to be a region like that.
Yes.
Now, with the rubber industry weak, we're getting closer to a smaller demand gap.
Right.
USA is pretty okay for demand gap. And then, of course, Asia is very fragmented, isn't it?
Yes, it very much is. The other bit that I wanted to take around the demand projections is, you touched upon it during your panel discussion, is the rubber industry, which is, I mean, the tire and rubber industry is about 85-90% of the consumer. But then the rest of the 10%, which is also growing at a much larger rate, right, is a part that is very much a focus. Specialty blacks is a very important part. It might not be the volumes, but then it's surely extremely important for specialty applications. Your mascara, by the way.
Yes.
Right. So
if you look at carbon black and let's say automotive coatings,
yes,
a few grams make 100% of the appearance of your car.
Absolutely.
So the value lever is massive.
Correct. By the way, trivia, do you know Continua was first commercialized in coatings?
I did not know.
Yes.
You see.
That's trivia for you. Yeah. I mean, a few metric tons here and there, but that was the first place that was first commercialized into 100% coating solution. I will not name the OEM. All right. That was that. I'll just have my last sign-offs. Any other points, Martin?
I think we covered it. Or do you guys think we forgot something? No, I don't hear anybody.
Wonderful.
So thank you, everybody, for coming to Carbon Black World. Thank you to the Smithers team. Thank you for that nice conversation, Anil.
Thank you, Martin.
And of course, see you back.
Yes, in Bangkok.
At Recovered Carbon Black in Bangkok.
Yes.
Maybe Recovered Carbon Black in Europe. And surely Carbon Black World next year again in Europe.
Absolutely. I'd just like to sign off with a note, which everybody's talked about. That's collaboration, right? We're all part of the long value chain, right? From feedstocks to the end mascaras of the world and the tires that hit the road. We don't exist without each other. So it's all about collaboration and putting things together and finding a solution. So look forward to further collaboration and working together. Thank you. Thank you for your time.
To the collaboration.